First it was a comic, now it's a movie. Let's compare the two. Supergirl, the movie, was originally going to be called Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, just like the comic that it is originally based on, but the stories do have key differences, so this video is going to talk about some of those. In the comic, after seeing planet after planet of massacre and genocide carried out by the brigands, Supergirl flies into the system's sun, curls up into a ball, and cries. It's a heart-wrenching moment, and it's backdropped by Ruthie narrating about how she believes that Supergirl is always in physical pain from holding back her incredible powers that are just trying to burst out of her in every moment as she interacts with normal people. The fires of the sun make it a stunning moment as well, but it would have looked over the top, cartoonish, and weird in the movie to have a real person do that. On the flip side, in the movie, Supergirl flies up out of the planet's atmosphere. She unleashes a scream that you can see with Millie Alcock's incredible acting is filled with raw rage and sorrow, and it's beautifully and heartbreakingly contrasted with the silence of space. No sound escapes. Since film is both a visual and auditory medium, that silence speaks in a way that it just can't on a comic book page, because no sound is gonna come from any of these panels. Her tear floating as she descends back down to the planet stands out in a way that it most likely wouldn't in a comic book. It'd be too subtle, and the images there are always still. Meanwhile, in the film, we linger on this single teardrop left behind from her, and again, a visual, moving medium that stands out more. Both moments convey the same feeling and are some of my favorite moments in their respective stories because they use the medium of their story to their fullest advantage to express emotion. If one tried to do it the same way that the other did, the moment just wouldn't work as well, if at all. That's the beauty of adaptation. It can't just be a copy and paste job. There's always artistry that's required to make it work. The fact that one story is told in a movie and the other across 8 comic books, which have since been collected into one graphic novel, also leads to a key storytelling difference, a difference in genre. While the Supergirl movie is an action-adventure with a baked-in ticking clock, 3 days to get the antidote for Krypto before he dies, in order to add some stakes to the hour and 48-minute runtime, the Woman of Tomorrow comic run is more of an Odyssey. There is no ticking clock to acquire the way to save Krypto, and Kara and Ruthie travel for months as they track down Krem. This allows for a more prolonged and varied tale set over 8 individual comics, with each individual issue released a month apart, so original readers would have experienced this story over the course of 8 months. Having personally gone from seeing the movie to then reading the comics, I found this change in pace to be jarring at first, but once I got used to it and the fact that these were 2 slightly different genres for the same story, I really began to appreciate both versions as the right way to, again, tell the story in their respective mediums. The only way for a live-action adaptation to have made this into an Odyssey like the original comic run would have been to make this an 8-episode series, which I wouldn't have been against. I would have been sat and watching that. But for comic book adaptations, superhero media in general, more people will go and see the movies than go on a streaming service and watch a series. And this is a story that deserves to be seen by a larger audience. The truncated timeline of the movie, going from several months to just 3 days, also meant that the original story of the villain no longer makes sense. He can't be a King's agent from Ruthie's world that works his way up through the ranks of the brigands with ruthlessness and cunning, as a rise to power like that wouldn't make any sense over a 3-day period of time that the movie tells this story in. So, the movie had to start him off as a leader of the brigands already. With that change, a few other changes had to be made. If Krem and Ruthie aren't from the same world, why would he even be there to kill Ruthie's father? The movie chooses to change Ruthie's father from a rock farmer to a legendary swordsmith, so that Krem would want weapons forged from his hand. And I like the change in the film that instead of this being the sword that Krem used to kill her father, this is now a sword forged masterfully from her father's hands, and it is like a family heirloom, something left of the family that Krem killed and left behind, and she will use it to avenge them. Which brings us to another change in the Ruthie-Krem dynamic that they made in the movie. That being, in the movie, Krem kills her whole family, as opposed to just her father in the comic. I like that heightening of the impact that Krem has on her, and the feeling that she has nothing else to live for but her revenge on him makes much more sense than it did in the comic. Not that it wasn't justified in the comic, but this is just heightened in a way that feels right for this story.
Revenge. It won't take your pain away.
One thing that the change in the time frame from the comic to the movie does not help in the movie is the justification behind the brigands having weapons and plans specific to countering Supergirl. In the comics, it makes complete sense that over the course of several months that the brigands are being hunted by Supergirl, that they would work to buy, build, and acquire kryptonite and magic weapons to counter her. In the movie, with the 3-day time period, I find it hard to justify why Krem has kryptonite ready to go in his arsenal, or even how they know how to move their base of operations to a planet with a green sun. This is not a movie-ruining plot hole, but something that requires a larger leap in logic to justify. Speaking of Supergirl, I think we need to address that where Kara is on her emotional journey, her hero's journey, is very different in the movie version than it is in the comic book version. I'm not sure that Kara in the movies is at a stage in her life where she would be able to handle a several-month-long Odyssey.
If I had any emotional capacity whatsoever, I'd be concerned about her partying.
She needed that sudden stakes of 3 days to save her dog to kick her into high gear. Unlike her comic book counterpart, the DCU Supergirl has not had years and years of life and adventures and love to help her get through and navigate her grief at the loss of Krypton. Unlike Superman, she grew up on Krypton. She had family, friends, every aspect of her life was tied to her home planet, until none of it was left.
Krypton didn't die in a day. The gods are not that kind.
Movie Supergirl is at the beginning of her emotional journey, and this movie sees her first real spark towards taking that pain and rage and channeling it into something good, just like her mother wanted for her. Instead of this story being primarily about Ruthie's emotional journey, and Supergirl's impact on that, especially with the revelations that are laid out in the final issue, which I'm not a huge fan of. The movie sees Kara and Ruthie learning from each other and this journey together. As for how these two different versions of Supergirl decide the final fate of Krem at the end of the story, both are understandable, but let's just say that given Krem's crimes, I fully support movie Kara's decision. Not to mention that as far as we know, there is no Phantom Zone in the DCU that Kara would have access to, unlike in the comics where she does. In the movie, Lobo, though I don't think it's executed exceptionally well and needed at least one more scene with him to drive this home, he's added to the movie version of the story to serve as a representation of the path that apathy and violence could lead either Kara or Ruthie down in the future. The final scene of him in the movie, where he watches the choice that Kara makes at the end of the movie, sets him up as a wonderful foil for her in potential future DCU projects.
Aren't you the ditz from that dive bar?
Funny. That's what I've been calling you.
Touché.
Meanwhile, in the comic, the side character who's not really needed role falls to Comet, the Superhorse, who shows up to save Kara and kind of be an extension of her guidance to Ruthie, but even that is giving him too much credit in my opinion. I really don't think the story needed him, hence he's not in the movie. Whew, well, those are my thoughts on the 4 main differences between the comic book version and the movie version of Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. Just to be absolutely clear, I love them both. I had a great time with both of these stories. I think that both had some aspects that were stronger and some aspects that were weaker to them. Neither are absolutely perfect stories, but both are great representations of Supergirl as a character, and the journey that we go on with her and with Ruthie is one that I am happy to have experienced both on page and on the big screen. Let me know what you think in the comments down below, but if you say anything that's sexist or anti-woke or whatever, your comment's just gonna be hidden, so don't waste your time and don't waste mine. If you want to see other videos like this, be sure to subscribe as I try to upload videos as frequently as I can, talking about fun, nerdy stuff and going on some nerdy deep dives. Thank you so much for watching, and have a good week.